Hey everybody, and welcome to another edition of Recap of the Past. However, this time and space, we are covering the massive.
Listen to the sound of the universe.
Yes, it's a very distinctive sound. It's basically the emergency brakes are still on.
Yeah. But we won't know that until several seasons from now.
That is true. That is future spoilers. Yes, welcome everybody. This is Recapping Space and Time. We are going to be conquering the modern reboot. Not modern reboot, the modern continuation of Doctor Who starting in 2005. I am your friendly neighborhood Rassilon for the time being, joined by Ben, the Master Rainer, and 50 Shades of TARDIS, who we brought in specifically for this because he's an even bigger Who fan than I am. How you guys doing?
And the current Doctor Who champion of the Outlaw Nation League.
That is true. I still attest. I thought that the Colonel question was a lot easier than it ended up being,
which it wasn't.
Yeah,
but we're not going to get into that now.
So let's do a brief kickoff. How did you guys get into Doctor? How did you first get introduced to Doctor Who? I'll start. A friend of mine, I went over to visit her, and she. We sat down and watched, the Doctor, the Witch in the Wardrobe, the Christmas special, where he goes into like the Narnia type situation. And I was hooked from there.
Well, for me, it was this guy.
Oh.
My stepfather, who was a massive Doctor Who fan first, and then he brought me into the show.
Well, where did you start off with then? Like, what do you remember? What episode?
It kind of forced me and my mom to watch it for a while now. And the first episode I remember watching was New Earth, which isn't in this current season, but it's the next one. It's the kind of the debut episode of Tennant, and it took a while, but after a couple of episodes later, I was hooked. It was mainly surprisingly enough, it was the music that kept me in. It was the Murray Gold rendition of the original Ron Gaynor theme from the 60s. You know, the ooh. That's what really kept me wanting to go back. So I kept coming back, and then I just became a fan. I became hooked, and it's all thanks to this guy.
I only have one criticism about the music, and then I find it sometimes a little too loud in comparison to the dialogue. Especially in that first season, like there were just times where all I could hear was music, and I couldn't really hear anyone talk.
Maybe that's where Nolan got that idea from.
Oh, maybe who knows?
Yeah, and also David Tennant, Tenet.
All connected.
Except the main difference is Doctor Who is actually good, and that movie is the less said about the better.
Never seen it. Don't plan on watching it.
Yeah, you don't need to. Anyways, we're talking about Doctor Who here.
Yes, Ben. What about you? I know you said you've seen a little bit in the past. So, what was your introduction to it?
Me?
Yeah.
I just stumbled upon a random episode. I liked it. I've never seen it from top to bottom, so this is another show where I'm exploring it for the first time. Excuse me. So, yeah, my first introduction was Matt Smith as a Doctor. So, he's probably going to be my favorite, but yeah.
He's
mine, but goddamn, does Tennant make it tough?
Yeah,
he really makes it tough.
I'm in the same boat. I mean, to me, there's a clear winner. It's Tennant all the way. Second only is Matt Smith, but damn, the Doctor we're going to cover in this episode today, he's one of the best. Unfortunately, it's tough because as of right now, he only has the one season live action.
and it'll probably be the only one season. So the series was brought back in 2005 with the announcement that Christopher Eccleston would be the Ninth Doctor. And for those of you who don't know the name Christopher Eccleston, he played Malekith in Thor: The Dark World, and he also played Destro in G.I. Joe: Rise of the Cobra.
Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. That was my first
haven't
introduction.
seen those
though.
movies.
Yeah. So you know what? Because we're a little bit crunched for time, let's just hop right into the list. 50, since you are our guest, what is your number 5?
My number 5, what? I wasn't prepared for this.
Okay, so normally what we do is we do a top 5, but how about this? So Ben and I have our top 5s. You just comment along with the episodes.
Fine by me.
Okay.
I'll try to be more prepared next time.
Don't worry, it's all good. We kind of sprung this a little bit. Ben, start us off. What's your number 5? Dalek, my number 5 as well.
You want to take it?
You got it. The Doctor is drawn off course by signal, and Rose and the Doctor end up near Salt Lake City, Utah in 2012 in an underground bunker owned by Henry Van Staten, a rich collector of alien artifacts. The Doctor encounters his one living exhibit, which the Doctor is horrified to discover is a Dalek that survived the Time War. The Dalek is the last survivor of a race of genetically manipulated mutants. Where's right here? Woo! The Dalek is the last survivor of a race of genetically manipulated mutants bound on purging the universe of all non-Dalek life, and the Doctor's greatest enemy. One of Van Stan's employees, Adam Mitchell, leads Rose to the Dalek, but she takes pity on it and touches it, allowing it to absorb her DNA and become active. The Dalek kills many soldiers before catching up with Rose, Adam, and the Doctor. Rose becomes trapped with the Daleks, but it spares her life as it has gained sympathy from Rose's DNA and destroys itself. As the Doctor and Rose leave, Adam boards the TARDIS to avoid the closure of Van Staten's vault. This was the reintroduction of the Daleks into the modern Doctor Who, and I think it was a great introduction. And Eccleston's acting in this was amazing.
Bless you.
Thank you.
Almost said something else. You know, something that I don't think gets as much appreciation with this episode as it probably should. It's pretty much the first time you get to see Eccleston's Doctor afraid and shaking, knowing when he's in that cell with the Dalek, knowing he's about to die because he's locked in a cell with a Dalek, no chance of escape. And then obviously there's the whole change up when the Dalek tries to shoot him and the gun just doesn't work.
Yeah.
And the shift from the look of pure terror to just pure joy and cockiness and arrogance, which this Doctor is famous for.
Yeah.
Revisiting the show, I rewatched the entire season last night, so I'm just about as tired as the rest of you. But rewatching that season, and especially in this episode, it becomes very much apparent that this Doctor was born from war. He's a very feisty Doctor. He's a very warlike Doctor, very vengeful Doctor, something that none of the Doctors that we've seen beforehand have ever been. He's very trigger happy. He's very quick to, we even see that in the second episode with Cassandra, which we might get to talk about later in this video. But he's very trigger happy. He's holding a gun at a Dalek, which is something that a lot of the other Doctors never would have considered. Obviously, the Fifth Doctor did shoot some people in the Dalek episode, but that's beside the point. It's one of
that far back.
Yeah, it's known as one of the most violent episodes of the Fifth Doctor to this day, and it's the reason why the companion Tegan left. Anyways, that aside,
I would have thought that would have happened more with the Sixth, because he seems more like one that would have done that.
Yeah, but the Sixth, that was when the violence of the show really amped up. So that's why they had to change the Sixth into Sylvester, and that's what they completely changed the Doctors. Anyway, back to Eccleston. So yeah, this is something that is very unusual for the Doctor's character, and obviously later we learn why that is. It was because of the Time War and because of the man standing behind you, the John Hurt Doctor, the War Doctor. doctor was born specifically for the purposes of fighting a war.
Yeah.
And then this doctor coming right after him kind of has some leftover from it. In the doctor, especially in this episode, he's got survivor's guilt.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's
He's
the only member of his species still alive. His species is dead because of him. He thought he saved the universe by killing all the Daleks while taking the Time Lords with them. And in this episode, he kind of learned that it wasn't true. Go ahead, Ben.
So, I had a question about the Ninth Doctor. When making this season, did they already know that in that timeline they came right after the Time War?
Yeah, it is the immediate. It is the most. It is the next Doctor from the Time War, but I don't quite know what the chronology of it is.
Chronologically, the Doctor has been known to have several stories prior to meeting Rose, and yet, because this was the first episode of a brand new reboot season thing, this was the first time that the Doctor saw himself in the mirror. He never got a chance in the episode with Rose. So it's known that he has had some adventures prior to this. It's just
I meant behind the scenes, like is Moffat doing?
No, this is Russell T Davies.
This is still the Russell T Davies.
Okay, then Russell T Davies know about the Time War making this first season.
He's the one that came up with the Time War, because when they did the Doctor Who movie in the 90s, the Time War wasn't a concept.
Yeah, it came out way after.
So
although in the canon, the Time War was referenced at the very end of the 6th Doctor's era, but because, timey-wimey, wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey stuff, it happened late into the 8th Doctor's timeline.
Oh. Okay. All right.
But Russell T Davies came up with the idea of the Time War to be this nebulous, mysterious thing that he didn't plan on really revealing too much of what happened. Obviously, he pretty much revealed the ending of the war with Tennant's last episode. But then Moffat kept coming back to the Time War and revealing more and more stuff, which I've always viewed Doctor Who as like this big, long, live-action comic book.
Mm-hmm. You're not wrong.
It switches writers and teams, and obviously the main actor, and everyone keeps adding to the lore and history. And there's retconnings all over the place. I mean, it's a time travel show.
Like Batman.
I feel like this is what Star Wars sequels trying to do with getting new directors, but failed at, because
you had to bring that up, didn't you?
Yeah. And here, let's continue. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, what are you, first off, before we
go but you're not wrong.
What are your thoughts on the episode Dalek? Because it's obviously number 5 on the list.
It's great. It's a great intro to the dialect. I like, even though it was so briefly at the beginning, and correct me if I'm wrong, I believe we didn't see a Cyberman in that museum.
You did see a Cyberman helmet, and I don't know which version it is off the top of my head.
It is the 2nd Doctor's version of the Cyberman from the episode Invasion.
So there's
several different versions of Cybermen throughout the 2nd Doctor era, but this was specifically with the big headphones and the tubes, and which basically it was an add-on to the original Cybermen design. It was from specifically the 8th part, the Invasion storyline.
Okay, cool.
Which is kind of referenced in an episode from the next season, but we're not going to talk about that today.
Right.
I always know before this episode, when I didn't realize how scary the dialect was. But those are one scary motherfucker.
Yeah, and it really hits you when they're in the stairs. Because up to that point, he's just dropping people left and right. They reach the stairs and they're like, okay, it's a machine on wheels. He can't climb a flight of stairs. And then just goes, elevate, which, by the way, it's not the first time we see Daleks do that on screen. It happened in the 7th Doctor era. However, it was the first time, obviously, for obvious reasons, we get to see it in the modern age. And for the people who haven't watched that classic episode, it's a shocker because up until that point, like I said, he's like an unstoppable beast. You think you found its one weakness, it's kryptonite, and that was when you realize there's no stopping this thing. It can kill everyone on Earth.
And I'm not going to lie. After this episode, I'm a little afraid of R2D2 now.
Yeah, but R2D2's a good guy. Come on. Look, it's R2.
Hey, man, one bad day.
Droid.
Yeah, that's all it takes is one bad day.
But, yeah, and then obviously after that, he does probably the most badass thing ever, where he shoots the fire extinguishing thing when everything gets wet. He just levitates above the floor and electrocutes everybody at the same time, killing like 50, 60 people at the same time.
Oh my, yeah.
It's a lot of those episodes of Doctor Who are horror themed, and you can definitely see why looking at this unstoppable killing machine, which technically speaking isn't even a machine.
And I know I'm still early by watching, but as of right now, I think they're not like all my favorite villains. I can't see anybody topping them.
I'm not going to get into it, but to me, some of the ones introduced later, I think I like. There's one that I think is way more scary than the Daleks,
which we will get to in a different episode.
Yeah,
I know what you're thinking of.
We do have to keep going forward because I don't have a lot of time left.
Okay,
unfortunately,
sorry.
Number 4.
Final thoughts. It's basically a slasher movie. That episode.
Yeah, basically, it's like a Michael Myers type thing because you're being hunted by a methodical killer. Yeah. All right, Ben. What's your number 4?
Father's Day.
Flight Punt.
Okay.
My number 4 is Boomtown.
Huh. Okay. Mm-hmm. It's a dark horse, but it's a good one.
So not on your list, Ben?
No.
Okay, so Boomtown, the Doctor, Rose, and Jack visit Cardiff to fuel the TARDIS at the Rift, and Mickey meets them there. They discover that the Slitheen impersonating Margaret Blaine is now the mayor of Cardiff, and they capture her, suspicious of what she has done. The Doctor sees that she has created a nuclear power plant designed to open the rift and destroy Earth, and a device she would use to flee. Margaret objects to being taken back to her home planet as she is considered a criminal there. After several failed attempts in killing the Doctor, Margaret requests to be taken to another planet. Jack sees the opportunity to use Margaret's extrapolator to speed up recharging the TARDIS, but this proves to be a trap, as it was meant to send the nearest alien power source to the rift. As an earthquake strikes Cardiff, Margaret looks into the heart of the TARDIS, which gives her a second chance at life, restoring her back into an egg. The reason I put this on here is basically it's mostly for the interplay between the Ninth Doctor and Margaret here, especially when they're in the restaurant, because she's trying to appeal to his good side. And as you said earlier, 50, he's just recently not too far from being the War Doctor, so still has that mentality, but she basically tries to appeal to any type of humanity he has in there. Basically trying to slither her way out of dying.
Fine choice of words. Slither.
So what are you guys' thoughts on this episode?
I can say it's a good thing we went with Dalek for the number 5, because it perfectly sets up what we just said, the War Doctor's mentality, the killer mentality, and even she picks up on that in that scene in the diner. The whole diner sequence, which is a collection of scenes meshed together, is like... Apparently somebody doesn't like that. Go ahead, Ben.
It's a good episode, I'm not going to lie. It's not one of my favorites. And the premise and things are good. It's a village. They take me out of it. You can tell it's not the best CG, if it is CG. And if it's practical, and they didn't really work for me. So when they're okay, but it's an okay episode.
one of the other things that I found interesting was the real, because we earlier in the season we were introduced to the Slovene, and it's interesting to see how being stranded on Earth has started to affect Margaret. To kind of make her more sympathetic to the human race. Best exemplified in that scene where she's about to kill that reporter, but while Margaret is in the stall, the reporter starts telling her how she has a husband and she's expecting, and Margaret all of a sudden lets her go, which is what she wouldn't normally do. So I like that exploration.
Yeah, it's a very...
I also like I think this is the first time we saw that heart of the TARDIS.
Yeah, it's the first time we see it, yeah.
Yeah, and it's a wonderful setup for what happens next.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. So, Ben, what is your number 3?
Was premiere.
Not on my list.
I think there was a good season series reboot / premiere. It gives you everything you want in a Doctor Who episode. You meet Rose, you meet the Doctor, you meet the mannequin villains. It's not the strongest episode, but I feel it's the best way to introduce the Doctor to this new generation. Christopher Eccleston is a dynamite right out of the gate. I really like it.
What is the first words you hear from his mouth? Run.
Run.
Yeah.
And it's a not perfect setup, not just for this Doctor, but just the new Doctor Who, the new Who series.
Yeah,
and
I agree. Great way.
It really does take the Star Wars: A New Hope approach by not starting with the main character on the title. There's I'm sorry, there's stuff happening off camera that you just can't see. It doesn't start off with the title character. It starts with the companion, with Rose. And that was really Russell T Davis's entire... Last time I'm inviting these guys on for an episode recording. But
okay, what are they doing? You have to tell us.
My mom brought cake, and they tried to... She's sitting over there. Her husband is sitting over there, and she tried to give him the cake underneath the camera. You wouldn't see it.
He's mom. You can walk in front of the screen.
Yeah. Oh, this episode is going swimmingly, by the way. Anyway,
God, it must have been to be a fly on the wall for that.
So it was Russell T Davis's whole philosophy of showing the story from the point of view of the companion. And that's why right away we see Rose's entire daily routine, and it's the first time in Doctor Who history have a companion. We see their parents. She has a boyfriend. She has a life there. A majority of, and again, first for Doctor Who, but not the last, the majority of this season, or several episodes during the season, take place in Rose's, general area, her timeline. They keep coming back there. There's an anchor bringing the Doctor and the companions back, which has become a staple of the modern Who.
Yeah, I was about to ask because I kind of drifted off once Capaldi started his run, but I know with Tennant's run they do that every season where they do go back for a couple episodes to visit the family. They do it to a degree. They also do it during Matt Smith's time. But do they do it with Capaldi and Whittaker?
With Capaldi, yes, because
Clara
is a teacher.
Yeah,
so he has to keep coming back to teach.
After Clara left the show.
And then there's Bill. Obviously, she's a student. She keeps coming back to study. And also there's, spoiler alert, the Master is kind of there. So he keeps coming back to check on her.
Missy.
And with the Whittaker era, from time to time, they go back and visit because she's traveling with 3 companions, or traveled with 3 companions. They keep coming back and revisit their lives and their family.
Okay.
Can I ask you guys a question real quick?
Of course.
While you're talking about this season, what are your guys' thoughts on Mickey?
Well, so I prefer I prefer Mickey and Jackie in Tennant's era.
Okay.
Because the thing about them in this, it's written a little bit more darker, and they both come off as whiny bitches. Like, don't get me wrong, their reasons are justified, but they come off as very unlikable in this season, whereas opposed going forward, not the case.
Just like the audience needs some time to get used to them, they need time to get used to the concept of the Doctor.
Yeah.
And granted, it's a lot easier with the Tennant Doctor because he's a lot more approachable than the Eccleston.
Well, also not just that, but they also did, with the Tennant Doctor, they also did go through the Eccleston Doctor. So, you know.
So,
Well, I will also say this. I mean, they're working on season 2, but from what I can tell, Mickey's last episode, in my opinion, is his best. I don't know if he comes back.
Yeah, he does.
Oh, really?
That's
Okay.
well, yeah. I'm not going to spoil it, but he comes back 2 more times.
Okay.
And all that takes place way before he blows up that building from Starfleet.
Yeah, exactly. Which is when I realized it was him.
Wait, what?
So in Star Trek Into Darkness, you remember Star Trek Into Darkness, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so the very beginning, they show a Starfleet officer waking up, looking at his friend, and then he goes and he blows up Starfleet Academy. That's Noel Clarke who plays Mickey.
Oh, shit. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
And I mean,
Okay,
that's just how good Benedict Cumberbatch is. He can make Mickey the idiot destroy Starfleet.
Yeah.
To be honest, I only seen Into Darkness once.
Okay.
And I don't plan on seeing it again. Maybe I have to now that
I mean, if you want to keep up your winnings in the IG division, you're gonna have to watch it. I mean, as a manager of you, I'm gonna make sure you watch that movie at least one more time.
Okay.
That's neither here nor there.
So did Vivian tell you that we kind of made a faction that
Yeah,
night?
the Sweaty Boys.
Yeah, the Sweaty Boys faction over on the Outlaw Nation League and the John Roca Patreon, which you should totally sign up for if you haven't already.
To see me go for the IG title, to see me and 50 be a team called the Allied Powers. It's going to be great. But anyways, let's keep going. So my number 3 is the small punt from earlier. It's Father's Day. Good episode. Rose asked the doctor to take her back to the day her father, Pete Tyler, died in a hit-and-run accident. But when she saves him, she creates a paradox. Flying creatures known as Reapers appear and attempt to treat the wound in time and space by consuming everyone in it. The guests at the wedding of Jackie and Pete's friends hide in a church while the doctor tries to summon the TARDIS inside. Jackie accuses Pete of having another daughter, and to prove that Rose is the same as the baby Rose, he puts the baby in the older Rose's arms, causing a bigger paradox, and the doctor is taken by the Reapers. Pete realizes he must die for everything to be repaired and throws himself in front of the car, which has been appearing and reappearing around the corner of the church, causing the doctor to return. So this is, I feel like, a great growth episode for Rose and even her dad, because her dad at the beginning is shown to be like a con artist, but by the very end he shows who he really is by doing the right thing and protecting his daughter. It's a great episode, great introduction to to his parents. Great to see what I like how they have, Jackie narrating to a young Rose how your daughter was a brilliant man. He had all his ideas, but then when you actually see them, she's always on his ass because he's always failing at everything, wants a divorce. Like it was nice to see that.
To me, I love this episode. You mentioned growth. This episode made me start to appreciate Jackie more.
Mm-hmm.
Because with this episode, you kind of see, okay, you know why she's like the way she is with Rose, and you get why she's like that. And because of this episode, I don't hate that character.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of my favorite characters, but she grew on me a lot in this episode.
What are your thoughts of the episode 50?
Now, just like what you were saying earlier about Jackie telling Rose all these stories and then later getting to see them in action, that's kind of parents in a nutshell, where parents can sometimes tell you stories about how they were before you were born, but they sometimes exaggerate the truth. Let's just
And
put
I
it
love
that
how
way.
he looks at his mother when he says that.
Yeah, but talking about the episode itself, I love the episode and hate the episode at the same time
Oh.
for the same reasons you said. It's a lot of growth for both Rose and Pete, and we get to see what happens when you break the laws of time.
You get to
And
see
it's
Mickey imprint his DNA on Rose. When he hugs
yeah,
her.
yeah.
Little bit.
And that's how you know they were meant to be.
And that's
But-
when that's when you realize, oh, he's actually older than her. Because she's
Yeah.
what, 6 months in the episode, the baby?
Wait,
she's-
who's older than who?
Mickey is older
Mickey.
than Rose. Mickey's the little boy that runs and hugs Rose.
Oh.
And that's also when you realize Mickey's actually been a friend of the family for a very long time.
Yeah.
With Jackie and everything. But it also, this episode, another reason why I like it so much is because it sets up so much stuff for later with the speech that Rose has with her mother right before they open the heart of the TARDIS again. And it sets up Rose's father for the follow-up series. Unfortunately, though, here's the main reason why I don't like this episode is because of you get to see the first hints at Rose's selfishness and bitchiness and thinking that everything is about her. And you know, even with that fight she has with the doctor, when she's like, oh, so it's okay when you save people around the universe, but when it's me saving my dad, it's not okay. I'm like, and I'm watching this, I'm like, dude, first of all, he's a Time Lord, he knows what he's doing, and B, okay, you want to save your dad, I can relate. Did you have to do that after you already traveled back to the same place twice, and there's an older version of you watching you do it, and it's a double breaking of time? Okay, maybe she could have saved her father and changed the timeline and everything would have been fine. You gotta be a little bit more smart about this. And she continues to do these things. The doctor tells her, yells at her in front of everybody not to touch the baby. He tells her, you are the same person. If you touch her, it causes a paradox and it could let these creatures in. And then like 5 minutes later, she does that.
Well, that's what that's what I do like about that episode, because you do realize, like, this is at the end of the episode, she finally realizes I can't be selfish, and that's best exemplified with her and her dad at the very end. And he's like, no, I'm doing this, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And she accepts it, and he goes and holds his hand while he dies. I don't know. I find that you start to see Rose turn away from that in this episode.
I also like this episode because it kind of had a Back to the Future type of vibe.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Thinking of father. So
And it involves someone getting hit with a car
yeah,
that changes the timeline.
Exactly.
And it takes place in the 80s. It's all one big Back to the Future reference.
All that was missing was somebody playing Johnny B. Good at the end. That would have made it perfect.
Yeah. However,
but it would have fit the episode.
but they went with a sad ending at the end.
I know.
However, here's a 5-pointer for you. Do you know what song is playing on the radio when Pete and Rose are on their way to the wedding?
No, I wasn't paying attention to that.
Ben?
No.
Give me a year. What year does the episode take place?
1987.
It's the year I was fucking born. Okay.
Me too, man.
I'm assuming it's all I can say. Only thing I got is it's a British band.
Never gonna give you up. Never gonna let you down.
Perfect. Fucking
Yeah.
Rick rolled.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure it was even before Rick rolling was a thing.
And before we go on to the next episode, I do want to point this out. There's a video online of YouTube where the Foo Fighters invite Rick Astley on stage and they sing do a hard rock version of Never Gonna Give You Up. It's pretty fucking cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, Ben, your numero dos.
Not new accident.
So, you're not doing like 2-parters as one for this, because that is a 2-parter.
That's what I would have done.
That's
Okay, I'll do that.
Because that is a soft punch. My number 1.
Okay.
Okay, my number 2 then is the 3rd episode of the season, the Unquiet Dead.
Never would have figured.
I have to remember this one.
The Doctor and Rose travel back to Cardiff
the gal.
in 1869, where a funeral parlor run by Gabriel Sneed with his clairvoyant servant girl Gwyneth contains corpses which have been animated by a mysterious blue vapor. Sneed and Gwyneth kidnap Rose, and the Doctor teams up with Charles Dickens to track her down. In the funeral parlor, the group is reunited, and the Doctor determines that the blue vapor is the result of a being trying to cross a rift in the space-time the parlor is built on. They are revealed to be the Gelth, who animate bodies until they can build their own, and are using Gwyneth as a bridge. As the Gelth respond negatively to gas, Gwyneth volunteers to ignite the gas, which will kill all the Gelth, and the Doctor, Rose, and Dickens escape before the parlor is engulfed in flames. I like this episode just because it's the first time in the new revival series we get the Doctor interact with a historical character, in this case Charles Dickens. Plus, it's a ghost story that takes place in Victorian England
in Christmas,
like at Christmas
with Charles Dickens,
and this introduces what's her name, Eve Miles.
Yeah, Eve Miles.
Yeah, Eve Miles to the Doctor Who universe. She comes back a couple years later in the spin-off Torchwood as a descendant of this character. Basically, this is the role that won her that role. But it's just great to see Rose interact really for the first time with somebody from the past, and to see the massive differences between the two cultures. And the scene with her and Gwyneth when they're just in the kitchen, I thought it was a great scene.
Yeah,
great scene.
Culture shock.
Yeah, exactly. Culture shock. And with the ultimate sacrifice that Gwyneth pays at the end and stuff. Yeah, I adore this episode. What about you,
and
Ben?
Also, like I said earlier, it sets up a lot of stuff beautifully. It sets up the rift, which will eventually become the home base of Torchwood, and it would tie into an episode we talked about earlier, Boomtown. And obviously, like I said,
it's a big thing in the Russell T Davies era. Like, you don't really see much about the rift after when Moffat took over, but in the Russell T Davies thing, it's brought up quite a bit.
Yeah, especially in Torchwood.
Exactly, because that's how the whole thing is Torchwood. They're based at the rift.
Yeah, little bit of a tangent time. So this was Russell T Davies setting up the seeds for the next couple of seasons and the next spin-off show, and doing it pretty subtly, where it's like seeing Captain America's shield in the first Iron Man movie, whereas Stephen Moffat kind of did the Iron Man 2 treatment, where they just hold up the Iron Man shield right at your face, telling you, "Look, we've got Captain America. Captain America's coming. We're going to make a Captain America movie," and that was basically what Moffat did by introducing the cracks in the skin of the universe right in the first episode, and kind of shoehorning them in to pretty much every episode he could have, which was eventually resolved at the very end of the Matt Smith era. Yeah. But this is why Russell T Davies is such a better showrunner than Stephen Moffat. Nothing against Moffat, obviously. He did some of the greatest Doctor Who stuff of all time.
And he did write some of the greatest Tennant episodes as well.
Yeah. Which is your number one, but no, sorry, it's that arguably the best Eccleston episode of all time. But Russell T Davies had a little bit more subtlety, even going so far as to introducing the rift in the third episode, and then slightly offhand mentioning Torchwood in the penultimate episode.
Yeah, Torchwood, an anagram for Doctor Who.
What do you mean an anagram?
It's the one where you mix the words around and it makes a different word.
Okay, I'll take it.
Torchwood is the exact same letters as Doctor Who, just mixed around.
Okay, I'll take your word for it.
All right. So, Sleepy Ben, do you have any honorable mentions?
World War III and Bad Wolf.
Yeah, those are going to be on mine as well. All right, so what are your number ones? Or your number one?
Finale. Parting of the Ways.
Parting of the Ways. Parting of the Ways is a good episode.
I loved it. You can see how powerful the dialect all together. You legitimately get scared. In Eccleston's last episode, you feel for him. it is a great finale, and when I just love it. What are your thoughts on it?
It's a great, you know what? It's a great send off for Eccleston. But my favorite thing is his last line, his regeneration. Daleks, very nice. No, it's his last lines. You know what, Rose? You were fantastic. You know what? So was I. And then he regenerates. And it's like, oh, that is Ninth Doctor to a T. No,
that is also considered one of the best Doctor Who regeneration episodes of all time.
Yep. I say that.
I have to say, I like Tennant in that leather jacket. Made me really got more of him in that leather jacket.
It looks good, but it doesn't suit that Doctor.
Yeah, because it was built for a much larger person.
Yeah.
Really.
But I agree. The look on him, it looks good. I don't know why, but it reminded me of Barty Crouch Jr. when they saw him in that U-boat jacket and that German U-boat jacket.
Well, it's the same actor, man.
I know it's the same actor and stuff, but I mean, just the image. I was like, fuck, that's Barty Crouch.
Let me ask you this. Does David Tennant remind you of a young Bruce Campbell?
A little bit, but without as much of a pronounced jaw, and a way better actor.
Ooh.
Oh, come on. It's his fucking heads and shoulders above Campbell as an actor.
Yeah. Can't argue with he's a Shakespearean actor.
Yeah.
Let's not kid ourselves.
Nothing against Bruce Campbell. I fucking love Bruce Campbell. Funny dude.
But
great
it's not it's not a fair comparison.
Okay.
Yeah. It's like trying to compare Steven Seagal and Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
Dave Bautista and Leonard Lewis.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
It's like trying to. This is a bit of a rough comparison, but it's kind of trying to compare Steven Spielberg and Michael Bay.
Yeah.
Michael Bay makes fun movies, not really the best.
Did he make a fun movie?
The Rock.
Yeah.
Okay.
The first Transformers movie.
The first Transformers, yeah. Bad Boys 2.
Pain and Gain,
and then it's all downhill after that.
Okay.
13 Hours.
Still haven't seen that one.
Me neither.
So, and also this sets up Captain Jack also for the remainder of the character's existence, because he dies in this episode, but with what ends up happening with Rose and the Doctor, he's brought back to life.
Yeah, and it's a great setup for Torchwood as well. Yeah,
and 50, because I know you've seen it like I have. Ben, you're going through it right now. Are you? This is a little bit of a spoiler for that. Are you upset that we didn't see Captain Jack with Tennant's Doctor during season 2?
No, because we got to see him with Tennant's Doctor multiple times later on.
Yeah, but it
does make sense.
Sorry, I should rephrase that. Are you upset you don't get to see him interact with Rose more?
No, because like I said, it makes sense in the story, they do get reunited eventually in the end.
Yes, and I'm antsy. Don't get me wrong, I really enjoy Rose and Tennant, but for me, my favorites are the two after Martha and Donna, and I cannot wait to hit those episodes.
Me too.
Wait. Yeah,
but going back to the parting of ways, I consider those two parters as just one.
Yeah.
Long episode. Great, first of all, great relatable stuff with trying to relate to the modern viewers with like the Weakest Link and the Big Brother and that.
You are
and when you realize that it's actually been a ploy by the Daleks this entire time, and it ties into a previous episode, The Long Game, which now you actually understand where that name comes from, because the long game wasn't the episode itself; it was the long game.
It was
the Daleks were playing through that episode, which is again Russell T Davies, masterful storytelling, and that ending scene of Bad Wolf, where you get to see like thousands of Daleks on the spaceship. It goes back into what we said earlier about the Dalek episode. You've seen how dangerous one of these is on its own. Imagine going up against thousands of them.
It looked like a fucking a Roman gladiator stadium.
Yeah, and then obviously, and there's thousands of them all screaming "exterminate" at the same time, and then
that must be a rarity. I don't find the Daleks scary.
Well, when you look at, because they're so iconic and recognizable, you see one, you're not really that scared of them, but then when you see them in action, when you hear the voice "exterminate," and when this is a spoiler for Ben, but when you see them at the penultimate episode of next season, thinking it's going to be something else and it's actually the Daleks, it just throws you off balance.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
Even in the Whittaker era, when they had the trailer for the Christmas special, which was eventually revealed to be a Dalek episode, you don't really get the setup from the trailer that it's a warlike alien that came to Earth and the last of his kind, looking for something to kill. And then you don't see the creature itself, but you see the Doctor herself. She's terrified. And then while the credits of the trailer is rolling, you just hear one word: exterminate. And that sends you off. It was like the Emperor laughing at the end of the Rise of Skywalker trailer. And even if you listen to some of the Doctor Who audio plays or audio books where Nicholas Briggs is voicing the Daleks, you can have a moment of like just general conversation, and then suddenly a Dalek shows up with its voice and immediately gives you a jump scare because you know what these things are capable of. So the Daleks are scarier when you don't consider their goofy appearance and their silly nature.
Fun fact, I have a Dalek pepper shaker. Just unfortunately, I dropped it and it broke off one of the arms. I was not happy about
that. That's a shame. But I still have my Fred and Barney's.
Yeah, I'm good with my Lego Dalek.
Nice.
All right.
Oh, nice.
Okay, so my number one then is the two-parter, which was a punt from earlier, The Empty Child / The Doctor Dances, which I agree with 50. It's hands down Eccleston's best episode as the Doctor.
Yeah. Are you my mummy?
Yeah, exactly. Just give me a moment.
Are you my mummy? Mummy.
Yeah, that I think is more intimidating for sure.
Boy.
Just give me a second. I actually got rid of my Wikipedia screen without thinking.
Are you my mommy?
Doctor.
I'm the mommy.
Are you my mommy?
Yes, I'm the mommy.
This is the first episode.
Is she my mommy?
Don't fuck. This was Stephen Moffat's first episode for Doctor Who.
Really?
Technically, because Stephen Moffat's technical first episode was The Curse of Fatal Death.
Really?
Where he first with the Rowan Atkinson spoof.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was his first ever episode, which is where he introduced the idea that the Doctor can regenerate into a woman, which he got to do several years later anyway, and the same number of regenerations. It's funny how these things work sometimes.
Yeah, I totally didn't think about that. I didn't even know that. That's a great special if you ever can ever find it.
And also, I just want to point out. Okay, maybe I should save it for later because it comes up later in the show, so I'll save it for then.
Okay. So The Empty Child. The Ninth Doctor and Rose follow a time-traveling metal cylinder to London during the Blitz of World War II. Landing about a month after the cylinder, the Doctor tries to track it while Rose discovers a young boy wearing a gas mask on a nearby roof. Rose climbs on a nearby rope, but she realizes too late that the rope is a tethered cable of a barrage balloon and is carried off the ground. Captain Jack Harkness, a former time agent from the East, posing as a Royal Air Force officer, rescues Rose with his camouflage spaceship before Rose falls from the balloon. Jack mistakes Rose for a potential customer of an object that he's willing to sell. Rose plays along, but insists she needs to discuss the matter with her partner before buying. Meanwhile, the Doctor returns to the TARDIS to find its phone ringing, despite caution from Nancy, a young woman nearby, not to answer it. He does, only to hear the voice of a child asking, 50?
Are you my mommy?
He follows Nancy to a house left empty from the recent air raid sirens, where Nancy and some orphan children eat a meal abandoned by the homeowners. The doctor tries to learn more from Nancy, but the boy in the gas mask knocks at the door. Nancy orders the children to leave by the back entrance and warns the doctor not to touch the boy. The doctor opens the door anyway, but the child is gone. The doctor catches up to Nancy and convinces her to give him more information. Nancy reveals that she knew the cylinder fell near a nearby hospital, and its appearance is tied to the boy. The doctor arrives at the hospital and discovers several patients wearing gas masks fused to their bodies. Dr. Constantine, an elderly doctor at the hospital, explains that Jamie, Nancy's brother, was the first patient with this symptom. Suddenly, Constantine changes into another gas mask wearing person, and the other patients all rise to start chasing the doctor. Rose and Jack arrive and quickly escape with him. The doctor forces Jack to admit that the crash cylinder is just a worthless Chula medical transport. The three are trapped in a room as the converted patients converge on them, all asking, 50?
Are you my mummy?
Nancy, who had returned to the home to get more food, is also cornered by Jamie the boy as he rescues her. And into the doctor dances. The Ninth Doctor and Rose are cornered in a London hospital during the Blitz by patients wearing gas masks, blah, blah, blah. The doctor pretends to be the mummy and orders them to go back to their room, and the patients shuffle off. Jamie, the index case of the epidemic, also responds to this, leaving Nancy alone. The doctor, Rose, and Jack investigate the hospital room Jamie was treated at and learn from recordings that the child is growing stronger with its powers and may become unstoppable. Jamie arrives shortly thereafter, having returned to his room along with other patients. Jack teleports himself, the doctor, and Rose to his spaceship, and the doctor uses the ship's Chula nanogenes to heal his wounds while learning more about Jack's past. Nancy returns to the site where the cylinder crashed near the hospital on the night Jamie had gained his powers, only to be captured by soldiers. The doctor, Rose, and Jack return to the site and discover the guards' faces transforming into gas mask-wearing people as the contagion becomes airborne. Examining the cylinder, the remains of a Chula medical ship, the doctor deduces what has happened. As with Jack's ship, the Chula medical ship carries billions of nanogenes. They had scanned the first human they encountered, Jamie, who died that night while wearing a gas mask, and presumed it was a template for all humans, transforming them into the gas mask-wearing people. Meanwhile, the transformed humans approach the cylinder. The doctor realizes that Jamie is the template controlling all these humans, searching for his mummy, and that Nancy is not Jamie's sister, but his mother. The doctor convinces Nancy to tell Jamie she is Jamie's mother, and she accepts Jamie into her arms. The nanogenes gather around the two, determining that Nancy is Jamie's parent and that her DNA is the proper template for humans. The doctor directs the nanogenes to undo their previous transformations, returning everyone to normal, including restoring Jamie to life. A German bomb approaches the site. Jack returns to the ship and uses it to tether the bomb and steer it away from Earth. The doctor orders everyone to flee the area, setting the Chula medical ship to self-destruct to destroy the technical parts without changing the timeline. Jack is unable to stop the bomb or escape from it, but the doctor comes to rescue Jack. He joins the Doctor and Rose in the TARDIS. At the end of the episode, the Doctor and the Rose dance to "In the Mood" by Glenn Miller, which I've played multiple times. I really do not like playing that song because of the amount of offbeats in the fucking thing. I've played it many times over the years. No, hands down, Eccleston's best episode. The look of joy on his face when he realizes he saved everyone and nobody died in the episode, which is a rarity.
Well, there is a war going on, so some people must have died during the episode.
But I mean, like, what he's working with. No, it was amazing.
But it's a great episode. I also love that's not downplaying. I love the introduction of Jack Harkness.
Yes, I love that character.
It's a great character introduction, but also, once again, slight tangent time. We live in the age of complaints. People always like to complain when a show, quote unquote, goes too woke or too PC. And we see that happening with the modern Doctor Who. Oh, Doctor Who is so woke now. It's so PC. This and that. Guys, this is what the show's been from the beginning, especially the new Who. They introduced Jack Harkness, a
pansexual.
Very openly pansexual. An omnisexual. He has sex with anything that has a hole in it.
Pretty much. I swear one of the doctors does say that.
Yeah. So, cool it. I mean, you know these people are ridiculous for saying that when they start saying this stuff about the Terminator
it's apparent.
franchise.
It's
But
like when people say leave politics out of Star Wars, obviously you don't know shit about Star Wars if you say that,
have you seen Return of the Jedi, people?
right?
Seriously, have you seen any Star Wars?
Yeah. Actually, my favorite moment between the Ninth Doctor and Jack doesn't happen in this episode. I think it's the next episode where he goes, "Hi, Captain Jack Harkness," and the Doctor's like, "Quit flirting. I was just introducing myself. That's good enough
He
for
was
you."
flirting.
And I love when it might have been next season. But when Jack leaves, I love when he kisses Wars and then he kisses the Doctor.
Yeah, that is in the that's in the last episode. And funny
In the Parting of Ways,
they did a take where they kept going, and Eccleston and Barrowman ended up rolling around on the floor embracing.
Of course they did. What else? Unlike everyone, I first saw Barrowman in the Elvis and not this, so
Not me.
it's kind of
The
funny.
producers.
What?
I first saw him in the producers. Didn't know it was him.
Springtime for Hitler and Germany.
Damn. I forgot he was in that.
Yeah,
It was him.
it was him.
And he looks good in Nazi uniform. I can't believe I'm saying it, but he looks good.
Yeah, but John Barrowman looks good in anything.
Yeah, because it's John Barrowman.
Exactly.
No.
All right. So that's
I was gonna say, like, first official canon Doctor Who episode written by Stephen Moffat, a setup to so many different things later, and this is a rare case of Stephen Moffat actually setting up seeds. He's a master of setting up seeds. Just sometimes he does it more subtly, sometimes not so much.
the best example of him doing that comes in series 4. Silence in the Library.
I was going to mention that episode because the gun that River has in the episode is the same gun that Jack uses in this episode, which he left on the TARDIS for her to find. And also, both of these episodes, the second parter, has a main character saying, "Everybody lives."
Mm-hmm.
Again, like I said, that's Stephen Moffat storytelling at its best.
Yeah.
Not at its, not when it's hell-bent. Let's just put it that way.
I have a question. And I don't mind if this is more or less for me. Does Rose meet River at any point?
No.
No. Okay.
Rose's final appearance happens the season before we meet River.
Okay.
Actually, it's
Tennant's
official final episode where he regenerates.
True. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Fair point. I was gonna say the final episode. Yeah. No. Never mind. Regard everything I said, but no, they do not meet.
I know what you were going to say, and I was going to correct you.
No, I thought for some reason I had in my head that the final episode of season 3 was their final episode, but then I remembered no, that's season 4.
Oh, so that's not what I thought you were going to say.
No, but anyways, thank you very much for joining us, everybody, on this journey on the TARDIS through time and space. Our esteemed guest, 50 Shades of TARDIS. Where can everybody find you?
You can find me on my YouTube channel, 50 Shades of Geek. You can also find me hopefully today later on Twitch, 50 Shades of Geek. I'll be streaming some Lego Harry Potter stuff, which will be on my gaming channel, 50 Shades of Gaming. You can also find me on this wonderful channel with these wonderful people every Saturday on Get Sweaty, which we're doing next episode live tomorrow because both of us, both me and Soda, have a match in the aforementioned Outlaw Nation League. But you can also check me out later tonight. I will be teaming up with this wonderful person here, Ben, for Mount Schmodown, and I will also be on Let's Talk About Star Wars with Evan Bushkar and Taco and the wonderful producer Razzle and Soda.
Yeah, that's right. I kept that. I'm not getting rid of that. All right, the Master. Where can everybody find you?
You can find me at my Twitter at Ben_Radio. You can find me pretty much all over the channel every day. And you can find me in a few hours, like 50 said, about Schmodown. We're covering Ben 10 today. We're covering Ben 10 today. So that's going to be fun. And I think that's it, right?
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
And as for myself, you can find me at soda_the_saxman
Saxman.
on Instagram and Twitter. You can find me on every goddamn show on this channel, pretty much.
Hey, I'm right there with you, man.
I know, but I'm making that my bit now. Instead of like listing off every episode, I'm on every goddamn show. It truncates it a little bit.
Maybe I should do that, but okay.
So you can find me on all those. You can find me while producing the Star Wars show, watching SummerSlam 2021, also on my other monitor tonight. But yeah, you can find me on all those. You can find me participating in the Outlaw Patreon League. You can find me pretty much all over the internet. And so with that, thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. And don't forget, it's fantastic that we're doing this series. We'll see you later.
Absolutely.